The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
From Roberta, who lives in Dayton Beach, Florida. Roberta asks, I think the panel made a successful prediction. Oh, finally, one for us. The U.S. bombed Iran. And at the 3 sites you all mentioned, I can't tell how successful the strikes were, but why do you think the U.S. made the decision in the first place? And that is an excellent question, Roberta. Mark, Scott?
Go ahead, Mark.
It's hard to really tell why that decision was made at this point in time. However, Israel really was concerned that Iran was very close to having enriched uranium that would work with bombs. Roberta points out, the jury's still out exactly how successful this mission really was. We've heard from, the Department of Defense, some of the agencies within the Department of Defense basically saying that we just put him back for a month. We didn't put him back, as Trump said, total destruction. So we have to wait and see exactly after the U.S. intelligence gets done with figuring out exactly how much damage we've done and where we sit now. Why did they come up with the decision now? There's a lot of theories to that. One of my theories is that Trump needed a win in his mind. He needed to have a win. And the fact is that if you look at public opinion about attacking Iran, it's negative. So maybe he didn't get the public win that he wanted to get. And again, he's trying to show he's the strong man. He's the strong leader. And public opinion looks at it and says, you know what, we shouldn't be involved in this. And I think the last poll I saw was 46% were in favor and 54 were against. And I've actually seen polls that said up to 64% were against. And the majority of people that were against, of course, were Democrats, but the majority of independents were really not sure that this was the right decision. And there was a large number of the Trump faithful. And again, I'm going back to the CNN poll that I was looking at, which maybe many people might say is kind of skewed. But like 28% of the Republicans weren't really against the strike, but were kind of leery as to, okay, what's the game plan? And they didn't know. So that would be my thought. Somebody in Trump's administration said, listen, we need to show some strength here. He's taken a lot of defeats. Took a defeat of the G7. He's looked pretty bad all along. And this was just his opportunity to show that he was a tough guy. But public opinion might be against him.
No, I think that's probably a good deal of truth to that, especially as far as like getting a win. We know that Trump loves his distractions, and we know that the military and big bombs are a real big distraction, and it allows him to do the stuff that he has been doing, his administration, while this has all been going on, that we're not probably paying enough attention to, which includes some of the changes that he's made to his team, as it were, for national defense and homeland security, one of which, bizarrely enough, includes Rudy Giuliani on the Homeland Security Advisory Team, which, is really just crazy. Anyway, I
think the word you're looking for is bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait till Rudy Giuliani goes out there to try to explain why there was a homeland security attack or something like that, and he's got the dye dripping down his face as he sweats his alcohol out, while he's talking. I mean, he is so over, but nobody dies in Trump world. I mean, see, Bannon was back before this all went down, which was really strange. But let me just say, Roberta from Dayton or Daytona or wherever you're from, whatever beach that is in Florida, this was not a decision by the United States of America. This was a decision by one man. And Trump is running this country like it's the Trump Organization, with him on top and a lot of people carrying out his desires. And having putting a military in this guy's hands is going to prove, or probably already has proven, to be one of the dumbest things that the American people have ever done in any election ever. I'm going to take a couple of seconds with this. In his first term, for whatever reason, he went after our healthcare apparatus He was not happy, of course, following Barack Obama. The success that Obama had with Obamacare bothered him tremendously. He kept saying that he wanted to do away with Obamacare and replace it with something else. He didn't get that chance. He never really proposed any kind of plan. It was always one of those, 2 weeks from now, I'll show you what my plan is. We've never seen it. But more importantly, he went after something that was left behind by the Obama team and their national security apparatus, called Crimson Contagion, which was essentially a healthcare war game that they played out over a really long period of time. It was, I believe, over a year in the making while they played out this war game. And listen to what the war game was gaming out. An infectious respiratory virus comes from China and comes to the United States from both coasts. How are you going to deal with it? And they went through all these various scenarios of how to contain the virus, mitigate it, eventually protect people, quarantining, all kinds of things. And this, long report, is 400 pages long, I believe. You could look it up. Crimson Contagion was the playbook that came in October. The war game ended, the assessments and all that data was gathered. The report was written in October of 2016. Trump was elected in November of 2016, and this was something that the Obama team gave to Trump that he immediately just threw in the wastepaper basket. Not only that, but he took away the teams that were over for the CDC in China. When he took office, there were 47 or 48 people working for the CDC in China with the exact intention of preventing a contagion from coming out of China and coming here. The idea was that they were going to, see it coming, be there, and contain it in China. And he got rid of that team. By the time the COVID virus finally came around, there were 14 people on that staff, down from like 47. In addition, he cut out something that Obama had set up called the Directorate of Global Health Security and Biodefense within the National Security Council, a global health unit led by an admiral, Rear Admiral Timothy Zimmer. And this team was supposed to lead the homeland effort, mainly to stop the virus. Trump cut that team. He broke up that team. Admiral Zimmer resigned, and eventually retired. And essentially, between cutting 2/3 of the U.S. public health officials operating inside China and cutting out this team that was in the White House itself to help with the virus, when a virus hit, and everybody always said when, not if, they were completely unprepared. Not only that, but he installed in very key positions a bunch of clowns. Robert Redfield was his third or fourth choice to lead the CDC after his first choice was found to have been accepting tobacco money and making judgments on tobacco. Alex Azar was not a healthcare official. He's a lawyer and a former official who he put in charge of the Health and Human Services, which has oversight on all of the agencies. It was a completely crazy thing to do, but nobody paid much attention at the time because we'd never had a pandemic like this. I mean, Obama was good at stopping Ebola. He was pretty good at stopping the bird flu or the swine flu or whatever it was that came around in 2009 when he first got there. And they were highly self-critical about what they did there, and they wanted to learn how to do it better. And that's why they put together Crimson Contagion as a war game. Trump threw all of that stuff out. And when the virus hit, we were completely unprepared for it. He's doing the same thing now with our security, with our defense, with our homeland security. Does anybody think that Krista Noem is a even a passable Homeland Security director. And by the way, his first one, Christian Nielsen, was a disaster. I don't think she was the first, but she might have been the second, but she was there at a really important time in his first term. Nobody lasted long in that first term, but she was there for a really important period of time in that. And her previous assignment in government before he hired her to be his Homeland Security director was she was put in charge of the preparation for New Orleans before Katrina by George W. Bush. A job that she failed so miserably at that even George W. Bush had to fire her. And Trump hired her back and put her in charge of Homeland Security. People pointed out that the name of this operation, Midnight Hammer, was it? Does that sound right, Mark? Midnight Hammer or something like that? Yeah, Brooke is nodding.
I think that's what they called it.
So, which would guarantee that Hegseth would be hammered by midnight, right? I mean, that was the kind of joke that came out of there. And when he said that the nuclear program was totally obliterated, who would know better than Pete Hegseth about getting totally obliterated? So, the jokes write themselves with this crew that he has there. I mean, even this guy, Dan Raisin Kane, may or may not be the person that he thought he was, right? Because Trump said that the reason he hired this guy is because he came up to him overseas, I believe it was in Saudi Arabia, wearing a Make America Great Again hat and saying, "Sir, I would die for you." And that was his qualification to be the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And the guy is not qualified. He's a 3-star general, not a 4-star general. They had to make all kinds of exceptions to get him in there. And he probably doesn't really know what he's doing. Those people that come to mind off the top of my head, being in the positions that they're being in, puts the American people in grave danger. And there is no other kind.
Don't forget Thomas Fugate. I don't know if our audience knows who he is. Mark, do you want to talk about him a little bit, since we're talking about safety in the homeland?
No, go ahead, Brooke.
Oh, all right. Well, Thomas Fugate is the head of domestic terrorism prevention. And this man is 22 years old. He graduated 1 year ago from college, and he has no visible national security expertise.
He was a grocery bagger, right? And a landscaper or something like that.
So he is overseeing our government combating of violent terrorism, violent extremism at home. So he has a degree in politics. He did intern at the Heritage Foundation, and he was a campaign worker for the Trump Foundation. He is the head of the Center for Prevention Programs and Partnership that is known as the CP3. So that's Charlie Papa 3. And that is supposed to handle hate attacks, school shootings, and other forms of targeted violence. And you can look this up, for example, in ProPublica. He is essentially a kid, 22 years old.
Right. I think your rooster is more qualified. But here's the larger point. I am sorry I'm taking so long with this, but I think it's really important for people to understand. There is a reason why these unqualified people, these sycophants, these ass kissers are in these roles that they are completely unsuited for. And it's the same reason that he did it in his first term for healthcare, which really ended well for the American people. 1 million Americans died from COVID. In Plato's Republic, he talks about the tyrant and how the tyrant has to have nobody around him of any value whatsoever, because he alone must make the decisions and only needs people to carry them out, not to decide. And Trump made this decision to bomb Iran, which has been on the table for every president in my memory. Okay, a high school student when Iran overthrew the Shah. In my memory, every single president has considered bombing Iran for various reasons. And certainly the nuclear program, which came to light in 2000, none of them ever did, because there's no real way to know what's going to come of it. Iran is a much bigger country than Iraq. a much larger and more populous country than Afghanistan. We do not know what will happen because we are bombing this country. It may be nothing, but it's likely that something is happening that we're not aware of, that these people are expected to prevent from happening, and it's they're not going to prevent it. Whatever it is will happen, and we will suffer because of it. And American people, this is your Trump team. So in addition to what Mark said, which I totally agree with, when it comes to Trump needed a win, his parade was terrible. His tariffs have not gone well, have not been received well by Wall Street. The big, bad, beautiful bill is in horrible shape, apparently, both in the Senate and now in the House, as people don't want to, some people want to cut Medicaid more, some people don't want to cut Medicaid at all. He's having a really hard time on the domestic front. He's not, popular worldwide. I mean, he can bluff his way through anything. He's got a real talent for that, and he did it today, yesterday and today in Europe. But he needed a win. I don't doubt that for a second, that went into his calculation. And I also won't discount the fact that Bibi Netanyahu, who I do not like and do not support, and even though I'm a big Israel fan, cannot get behind, has been trying to talk American presidents for like 30 years now into bombing Iran. And he finally got one that was willing to do it. And good for Bibi. He got his bombing. He suffered a couple of missile attacks. 4 people died yesterday, I believe, in Israel. He's weathering that. The Israeli people seem to be willing to go along with him as long as there's a threat of violence. They don't want to make a change in midstream, and so Bibi gets to keep his job and stay out of prison, which is where he and Trump would both be if they were not president again.
Yeah, and Scott makes a very important point here. First rule that you learn in law school is don't ask a question if you don't already know the answer. And I think that kind of speaks to Scott's, statement about we have no idea what this is going to lead to. The clown car that is running it truly has no concept of what will happen because of the actions that we take. Was there any kind of, consideration about possible sleeper cells here in the United States? I don't know. Normally, in something like this, even though it may not be the full Congress, normally you're going to talk to the Gang of 8, as they're known. We don't even know if they were spoken to, if they knew what was going to happen. Normally, you would speak to your allies and let them know what's going to happen. And it just seemed this was just an off-the-cuff, knee-jerk reaction without any consideration about what the possible consequences could be from it. Now, granted, the Ayatollah of Iran is saying that it's going to be terrible retribution or whatever the statement that was made. And although it probably is not something as terrible as, when we think of terrible retribution, not that bad, but there's going to be something. Something is maybe going to come of this. Will it be toward the United States? We don't know. Will it be toward Israel? Possibly. We have to see where this plays out. But normally, whenever you make a move, it's just like, playing chess. You have to anticipate the moves of the opponent. And this shows, again, I cannot get behind the idea that the clown car that he has in his administration actually really thought about what the consequences could possibly be. And that could come back and bite us in the ass.
So thank you both. And thank you, Roberta, for your question. Thank you to all our listeners for spending some time with us. We'd like to thank all our subscribers for your continued support. We do appreciate it. If you aren't a subscriber to the Nova Society on the platform you listen to, please do so. Those emails coming, and we will see you again next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, BH Conflict Resolution Services, a full-service dispute resolution firm offering expert, cost-effective mediation services to couples, groups, and businesses. BHCRS can be reached at www.bhcrs.com.